Warning: this clip may contain greatly offensive content. Do not watch if you have a heart condition or are under 18. I'm not kidding, you will die. Hello bros and welcome to Aspect Zero, BroFive production, and the next part of Corruption of the Champion. I bet you thought I would have stopped with that now. But I actually have not. I just done a lot of other things. So, well, start recording right here. Alright, I just gonna tell you what happened. I was going to tell Andre I sold everything I had at the pawn shop because I was full stored, but I wasn't able to get past this. And I have a lot of other things I think we can include. So let's start. As you walk through Talandre, taking insights, you catch a glimpse of a cat morphs part way down the alley. It looks like three cat morphs men have a younger cat morph woman backed into a corner. None of the men look to be armed. The girl is wearing tattered dress that could have once have been white, and she looks worried. Alright, I'm the champion of England, so I have to intervene. Fighting three people at once is a lot harder than dealing with the opponent. Fighting three people at once is a lot harder than dealing with one opponent. Still, from the look of them, you could probably mop the floor with these three. You square your shoulders and march down the alley. If you look intimidating enough, maybe they just scatter. As you pass a few wrecked packing crates and barrels, you see something leap out of the debris that covers the earth in this alley. Too late, you recognize it to be a loop of a thick cord. You try to jump, but the cord snaps tight around your ankles. You fall to the ground and the air is knocked out of you as half of dozens bodies land on top of you. Something smacks the back of your skull and you see stars. Half a brick lands in front of you, and as the haze closes in your brain pieces together in a single dot. Well, this is embarrassing. A little bit. I actually think if I can gather my thoughts real quickly, I could have still mopped the floor with them. You blink your eyes, even that hurts. You can't see anyone in front of you, but then you hear someone take a step towards you. A male catmore, perhaps even one of those who was threatening the younger woman, stands over you with a wooden plank in one hand. A soft voice calls out, "Don't! You hit her awfully hard last time. Evelyn will give you the boot if you kill her." He rolls his eyes, tosses the plank to the side and says, "Fine, but if she's awake, she could get away. You stay here and watch her." "You put some milk aside for me, right?" the voice asks, worried but hopefully. "Don't worry, we'll save you some," he says, and he walks away. "Yeah, like last time," she mutters under the breath. You find that addition to your feet, your hands have been bound in front of you. They didn't gag you, presumably they expected you to stay unconscious for a bit longer. Rolling onto your other side, you expect to see the younger cat move from before, but this girl is different. Slightly more than 5 feet tall, she's got the jet black fur over her body and a mane of shoulder-length hair that's been dyed neon pink. Well, that seems fun. Her B-cup breast stands out nicely on her little frame. There's a small silver bell attached to the collar around her neck. It's hard to gauge her age, but you think she's be around 18 or 20, or rather she would be if she were human. You tell her she's a bit nervous thanks to the twitching of a slender tail. It races back and forth the same way that a feral cat might when aged. Since you can speak, you try to strike up a conversation with the girl. You ask her why she's worried about the milk. She looks down at you and seems to decide aren't much of a threat right now and sits down on the edge of the crate. I probably shouldn't be talking to you, but what is the harm in it? She says, almost to herself. Her stomach contributes with conversation some long, painful sounding gurgling noise. She opens her belly and sighs before continuing. We need to eat, just like everyone else, and milk is the best kind of food. All of us love milk. Once again, she stopped the quiet of a rumble from the stomach. But milk goes so fast. Last time they saved me some milk, but it was almost the cheese by the time it got to me. You ask her why she's the one guarding you. I knew that this, so I get all the jobs from the bottom of the barrel. She pulls a bundle up from inside the crate, sitting on all your stuff. All your stuff is here, except for a few games. Just enough for all of us to get a meal. She lowers the bundle back into the crate. You ask her why why the cats don't just take everything. Her response is almost panic. Then we'd get in a real trouble. No, no, no. She calms herself down and continues. Most people won't go all the way to the watch house to report a handful of missing games. For 1,000 games or even 100. Sure, but with us, they still have all the valuable stuff. Armor, weapons, anything personal. They know the watch isn't going to be able to find a handful of games, so why bother? Lots of the gangs have stripped people bare. Strip people bare. They always get caught. Other gangs kill their marks so they couldn't tell the watch who robbed them. The watch really stomped on them. That's why Evelyn has a plan to work so well. We're not enough trouble for anyone to go after, and we're never the worst people on the streets. For a while you lie still and she stares off into space. She obviously distracted by the hunger, but how can you use that? A plan falls and you ask her why the cats lost me. Did they just leave you here? She gives you a confused look and asks, what do you mean? You shift on the ground and reply that you're lactating. Oh right, I forgot about that. She gets up and kneels beside you, stomach growling once again. She presses her hand gently against your chest and her pupils delight. No, they must have must have sniffed for it. She starts to fumble with your black leather arms surrounded by the voluminous rope. Her hunger clearly overrides a better judgment. That's your opening. You punch upward with your bound hand, catching her in the gut, knocking the wind out of her. She's not much of a fighter, and in one move the situation is real. She's flat on her back, gasping for air, and you sitting on top of her, holding her tightly between your knees. If she gets her wits about her, she might still be able to escape. So you put your hands over her mouth and tell her to untie you in your most commanding tone. Oh, there was no scrolling down there. She freezes in place, staring into your eyes. Her fingers reach up and after some fumbling, free your hand. You remind her that considering they just robbed you, calling out isn't a good idea. They take your hands away and ask her what her name is. Katrine, she blurts out. That's when you feel something growing between you. A hot bump seems to have developed that dawns on you that this is very feminine, Kitty. It's actually a herb. Alright, she has male and female body parts, that is. And from the size of the pressure and the bump, you're guessing she's packing a real monster down there. Please, no, she cries, but it's too late. Her belt can't get shins tight enough, and her CXXX snakes through the gap between her tattered pants and her belly. You expect that she's turning bright red if it weren't for her fur. Speaking of red, the CXX is bright red and doesn't belong on any kind of cat. The continued swelling near the base confirms it. Katrine has a CXX of a canine, and that CXXS has a huge knot. She whimpers, "I just wanted food," and tries to hide her CXX curling into a ball under you. If you help Katrine, it might pay off in more than karma. If you're into that sort of thing, you could also turn your back on her, likely forever. It actually is like that. I checked into Urta character that we pretty much ashamed, and I found out there was a lot of a storyline with her that I actually wanted to play. So I'm not gonna try to. I'm not gonna turn down anyone anymore. So I help her. You feel you just have to do something for her. She needs food and she is ashamed of her own body. That's rare in this time, but it's not a good way to live your life. You free your legs to go to the crate and collect your gear. Katrine remains on the ground. Eyes squeezed shut. She tucked her erection inside her shirt and she is clutching it to herself, seemingly trying to force it to die down. You count out 10 grams and press them into her hand. Her eyes pop open and she stares at the game. But we robbed you. You give her a pat on the shoulder and tell her to get something to eat. She springs up from the ground and hugs your legs, whispering, "Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I won't tell anyone. Thank you so much." You stride out of the alley, hoping that you will meet Catherine again. Well, let's see if I think I might be. Actually, no. Explore. Alright, I didn't yet. Let's try again. No, I still didn't get it. Let's see, forest then. Walking through the woods, you find a damp patch overgrown with corrupt plant. Every flower seems wrapped in a colorful intention of female genitals. Each vine appears throbbing, veiny, and even every knot on the nearby trees is capped like a nipple-like prostitution, leaking dark sap. Disgusted by the perfection of the nature, you turn to leave, catching a face full of the white goo that's spurting down from the vines above. It's slimy, gross, and difficult to clear from your eyes, nose, and mouth. The musky smells of the light, salty flavor are undoubtedly a result of plant corruption. You escape the tender glade, but feel warmer and warmer as time passes. Explore forest again. Yeah, there. While you're moving through the trees, you suddenly hear yelling ahead, followed by a crash and screams of an imp comes flying at high speed through the foliage of impacts the nearby tree. The small demon slowly slides down to the tree before landing at the base. Still a moment later, a familiar-looking cowgirl steps through the bushes, brandishing a huge two-handed hammer with an angry look on her face. She just goes up to the imp and kicks it once, satisfied that the creature isn't moving. She turns around and faces you and gives you a smile. "Sorry about that, but I prefer to take care of these buggers quickly. If they get the chance to call on their friends, they can actually become miscreants." I don't know. She disappears back into the forest briefly before reappearing holding two large piles of logs under her arm, with a fire axe and a hammer strapped to her back. "I'm getting firewood for the farm. As you can see, what brings you to the forest, sweetie?" You inform her that you're just exploring. She gives a wistful sigh. "I haven't really explored much since getting to the farm. Between the yards, Whitney gives me keeping in practice with my hammer, milking to make sure I don't get too full. Cooking and beauty sleep. I don't get a lot of free time to much else." She sighs again. "Well, I need to get this back, so I see you later." Right. Right, I think it was one more. Let's see if I can. I'm just fighting an imp right now. I'm gonna rape the imp. An imp again. Yeah. Oh, I accidentally raped it. Actually, I still have the virginity in my on my character. So maybe next time. Alright, there, I found it. You set off to search for a new horizon, setting in form camp completely new direction than you ever tried before. Away from the parts of Maref you thus far discovered, much of the world seemed to be bared wasteland, making even the desert seem healthy and full of life. Your trip soon begins to seem uncorrect. Having found no new areas of Maref and any contact with the inhabitants, you decide to turn back towards camp. However, you soon catch a familiar glimpse of something in the distance. Squinting, you shield your eyes from the sun and try to discern the strange glint of the horizon, but it's simply too far away. Well, whatever it is, it certainly merits a check. It could be anything, perhaps a city, the ruins of Telandre's more distant neighbors, or even some demon enclave that needs destroying. With a quick check of your katana, you begin to long trek towards the shimmer in the distance. Oh, this seems interesting. You finally close the distance between yourself and the strange structure, which begins to take shape ahead, though it's half buried under what must be years of build-up. Build-up sand and debris. You can clearly make high stone walls toppled velvet arches. Broken every so often by shattered remains of stained glass windows and pair of utterly charred oaken doors, nearly hidden behind a row of tall marble pillars, many of which have long since crumbled. High above the ground you can see a pair of tall slender towards reaching heaven, one of which has been nearly obliterated by the only powerful impact, leaving it a stump compared to its twin. From the rooftop, strange shapes looks down upon you, stone statues made in the image of demon dragons and other monsters. You arrive at the grounds around the ruins, cornered by waist-height roof iron fence that surround the building and what once might have been a beautiful pasture garden, now rotting and wilted. Its trees chopped down or burned, twig-like bushes mere gales, different from being tumbleweeds. A few dozen tombstones outline the path of a gaping maw that was once the great wood doors. Seeing no obvious signs of danger, you make your way inside, stepping cautiously over the rubble and rotting debris that litters the courtyard. It's actually pretty long, so I don't know when the story will end for this time. It's quite dark inside, illuminated only by a shaft light streaming in from the shattered windows and the sunken doors. You can make out a few dozen wooden pews and either thrown aside, rotting long since crushed, leading up to the stone altar. An effigy of a great green tree, now covered in graffiti and filth, stares beside the altar, leading up towards down from what must be catacombs or dungeons deep underground. However, what most catches your eyes upon entering the sanctuary are statues that line the walls, beautifully carved grey, stone idols of a creature shimmers, and nearer the altar, godlike beings are each set into their own little alcove. Unfortunately, most have been destroyed along with the cathedral, each lying in a pile of its own shattered debris. Some having whole limbs of other experiments broken off and carried away by looters, leaving them mere shadows of their former glory. All of them but one is in the farthest darkest alcove. You see a single statue that still seems intact. It is of a woman, well, more like a succumbus than a human woman, though posed in a low predator crouch. She would normally stand nearly 6 feet tall, hair sculpted to fall playfully about her shoulders, a pair of bat-like wings protruding from her back, curled back and exposed the lush, smosh orbs of her breast easily double D on a human. A spiked mace-like tail curls about her legs that attached to the pedestal upon which she's placed. As you stand marveling at the one statue of beauty, you cannot help but notice the slit of her PXXXX nearly hidden beneath her. Oddly, it seems to have been carved hollow so that you could easily stick a finger inside if you chose. However, your attention is soon drawn from her body to the pedestal upon which she stands. A pair of solid golden chains extend from the pedestal to her wrist, binding the statue. You notice a pledge has been bolted to the pedestal, a feature not pressed on any of the other statues here. Leaning down, you blow a sizable amount of dust from the pledge, revealing the following short and clear: "Break my bounds to make me tame." You That sounds weird. You suppose you could break the chain on the statue, but who knows what will happen if you do. You have discovered the Katrine. You can return here to the future and select it from the place menu in your camp. Let's break the chains and see what happens. You swing your katana up over your head and strike the chain. An ear-splitting shing echoes through the Katrine as the shards of golden go flying. You recoil, shielding your face from the surprising explosive force of the chains shattering. When the dust settles, you cautiously lower your arms, giving you a good view of what lies, or rather kneels, before you. The gargoyle has stepped down from the pedestal and now kneels supposedly before a king, forehead near the ground, and the weight rested upon her stone knuckles over her massive wings unfold behind her, and her mace-like tail swishes rapidly behind her. Slowly, then Gargoyle raises to her head, gazes upon you, and now ruby red eyes staring into yours. Her smooth nipples breast have one stone hair falling forward in strand, fringing her smooth angular face. Her thin grey lips slowly curl into a small sultry smile as she says just on the edge of hearing, "Master, my master." You glance over your shoulder, but there's no one else here. She must be referring to you. "What would you have of this one, master?" she asks, looking up at you expectantly. Still cautions, you ask her what she is exactly. Clear she's no ordinary statue. "I am your humble servant, master. Your tool, your plaything, your toy. Ask, and I shall obey." She seems to pause for a moment and adds in an emotional whisper, "This one would be honored to pleasure master if she desires." You raises more questions than answers, taking things slow. For now, you ask her name. I am simply M. What would master call me?" Alright, I'm gonna name her. Actually, there's one name that isn't ordinary that I actually have used in other games. Tiara. Actually, it's not an ordinary name, it's mostly just a princess crown. That is called Tiara, I think. And it's not an ordinary name, so that. "Tiara," she purrs. "Tiara, Tiara. Master has interesting taste." "Yes, I have." She continues these before you expectantly. You suppose you could give her an order, perhaps something humorous, or perhaps something carnal, or maybe just talk to her, though as yet seems a bit odd. Talk. You decide against giving Tiara an order for now. Instead, you right the nearby toppled pew and set yourself across the front, crossing Gargoyle. The turner stands there with one of your own. Why were you chained up? You finally asked, glancing the shattered bounds on the ground. Master found a new toy and soon grew tired of me. Still, she did not want me stolen. You lost Master? That's correct. Who was she? She was Master. Fine, you sighed. Apparently, it doesn't want to tell you, and you don't feel like pressing issue just yet. In that case, what happened here? Suddenly, Tora breaks the stare and looks away, if ashamed. The demons. Doom that even now Blight Mareth took its toll here too. The people of the town no longer here believed they were safe under Mareth's roof, protected their fate was misplaced. It seems that even the lead of Katrine destruction weighed heavily on Tiara's heart. What do you do? Reassure. You can't help but feel sorry for the poor gargoyle. It isn't hard to figure out what happened, and in truth, she reminds you a bit of yourself and of the consequences if you ever fail. You reach over and puts a hand on her smooth, cold shoulder as reassuring you can. You tell her that you are SFX Zero and the champion of England. Your duty is entirely dissimilar, dissimilar to what hers was. While you hope you never know what she's gone through, you can certainly sympathize. Thea looks up at you with her ruby eyes shining in the dim hit of light, and Cortera, you cut her cheek and gave her a smile. Come on now, you reply, offering a hand up. Let's get out of here. Master, I cannot, she says again, looking away from her. Please do not ask me that of me. I am still bound to this place. Please, Master, I shall never ask anything of you again. Please. Slowly you nod and ask her if she's be alright here all by herself. She gives you a little smile and says, of course, Master, especially if you return. You will return, Master, won't you? She looks deeply into your eyes and huskily purrs. I can't make it precisely if you do. You also tears her and assure her you will before you take to leave return to camp. So, 3 big things have happened. 3 things that I think only happen once ever in the story. Alright, stop recording right here. Well, now when that's done, I can actually start to try to level up more. Well, at least, when we denied Urta to don't follow her back into the alley or so, she became ashamed, and there was a big storyline with her, apparently. So, and I haven't found any way to get her unashamed. So, I will not, I will want to discover all. But, that about Urda has to, well, stay forgotten. We'll see if we can find something else that's fun. But at least hit like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. BroFive!